Almost European appearance, comfortable interior, correct behavior on the road, and all this for less than $10,000. No wonder that, having barely appeared 7 years ago, Hyundai Getz went like hotcakes. It is also popular in the secondary market, and not only because of the attractive price. Getz engines prove to be remarkably trouble-free. Yes, after 60 to 70,000 kilometers, immediately after a cold start, hydraulic lifters begin to tap, but after warming up, the knock subsides and does not progress with time. After 50 to 60,000 kilometers, crankshaft oil seals can leak. Because of the fires of St. Elmo on high-voltage wires, there are problems with starting in wet weather. Spark plugs often need to be replaced twice as early as 30,000 kilometers, and most often cause the check indication to turn on engine. Ignoring it will cost you more. You can get to replace not only the oxygen sensor, but also the converter. And after 3 or 4 years, you often have to change a burned out or punctured. Do not neglect the protection of the engine compartment. Corrugation of the exhaust system, although you can weld a universal accordion in its place. After 80,000 kilometers, the engine mounts begin to tire. The first bell is increased vibrations. The second is a knock in the supports. The third, when the body of one of the supports collapses, it is better not to wait. The fallen power unit will damage the wheel drive. And do not tighten with the replacement of the timing belt. Its breakage after 60,000 kilometers threatens by no means a friendly meeting of valves with pistons, especially on 12-valve valves with a volume of 1.3 liters. And 1,400 cubic centimeters motors turned out to be the most picky about the quality of fuel. A little something. The engine stalls after a cold start or starts to play with speed. Flashing the control unit helps. If the machine is still under warranty, then it is free, and after the warranty period expires, you will have to pay about $100 for the operation. However, if the throttle block is dirty, the speed will float in any of the motors. The crankcase ventilation system is to blame. Flushing is best entrusted to knowledgeable people. It is better to change the air filter at every maintenance after 15,000 kilometers. This is easy to do on your own, unlike replacing the fuel filter hidden in the gas tank, which is required every 60,000 kilometers. Cooling radiators due to leaks in the lower tanks were often changed under warranty and often did not live up to 100,000 kilometers. More reliable ones appeared only after restyling. The automatic machines produced by Hyundai were also not very durable on the Getz of the first years of production. Sometimes, due to premature wear, they had to be sorted out before 100,000 kilometers. And there are problems with the control electronics even now. The input and output shaft speed sensors are failing, because of which the automatic, after 50 to 60,000 kilometers, can start to work jerky, or even go into emergency mode, remains in third gear. But the repair costs no more than $200, and otherwise, taking care of the machine comes down to changing the oil every 45,000 kilometers and the filter after 60,000 kilometers. After 50 to 60,000 kilometers, a manual transmission may also require intervention, more precisely, torn gear shift cables. The clutch-driven disc can last up to 120,000 kilometers, and before that it may be necessary to replace the drive oil seals, the intermediate bearing of the axle shaft, and a pair of release bearings that warn of their imminent death by whistling. And the rear suspension is vociferous and in good condition. The upper mounts of unheated shock absorbers are tapping, and it's usually not the rubber bushings. If the sound of the suspension work is annoying, you can replace the native, harsh Mando shock absorbers with something softer. For example, Japanese Kaiba firms are suitable. The resource of shock absorbers is up to 60 to 70,000 kilometers. The bushings and stabilizer struts live the same amount. Front shock absorbers require updating after 90 to 100,000 kilometers, often along with thrust bearings. Together with them, it makes sense to change the wheel bearings, steering tips, silent blocks, and ball bearings of the front levers. Both of them change separately. Getz's specific problem, the fragile studs for attaching the wheels to the hubs, has no age. But, as if anticipating future problems, the Koreans made the studs inexpensive and easily replaceable. Most Getz are equipped with power steering, and on pre-styling cars with a 1.6 engine, there is also an MDPS, motor-driven power steering, electric power steering located on the steering shaft. In the electrician, knocks of the worm shaft on irregularities are possible. In hydraulics, pipe connections and pump seals sweat, neither of which is critical. A small play in the engagement of the gear and steering rack after 120,000 kilometers is treated by adjustment, and the crunches when turning the steering wheel disappear after replacing the steering shaft bearing. The brakes also turned out to be long-lived. The front pads often last longer than 40,000 kilometers, and the discs up to 100,000 kilometers. The pads in the rear drum brakes serve at least the same amount. In cars with a 1.6-liter engine in our market, their pads go 1.5 times less. The Getz body successfully resists corrosion as long as its coating is intact. Under a layer of paint there is a galvanic zinc-containing primer. But the metal is not of the best quality. Do not be lazy to immediately tint chips and scratches, otherwise rust will bloom in a matter of days. Paint, especially for pre-styling cars, is not very durable, and after 6 or 7 years it begins to swell on the trunk lid, doors, thresholds. And plastic bumpers and door handles can start shedding even earlier. But the salon is doing well. The budget upholstery is not wiped, the seats do not sit out, and the interior creaks even in fresh cars. Not too reliable buttons for heating the seats and power windows, and the proprietary problem with fogging of windows in wet weather can annoy. Even frequent replacement of the cabin ventilation filter does not help. The air conditioner saves, but after 3 or 4 years it will require recharging due to a gradual refrigerant leak.